All right, in this lecture, I'm going to go over my recommended settings for your camera. First off, one of the ones, because it's caught me before, is release shutter without card. You're going to want to turn that off. Otherwise, you can pick up the camera, not have a memory card in it, start firing away, and never even know that you're not recording any actual images. For me, I also like to go through and disable the beep. When I'm shooting, I don't need the camera to constantly beep in, making noise, telling me that it's autofocused, things like that. Also, again, when I'm shooting, I'm having the camera up to my face quite a bit, and I'm turning the image review off so that even if I am pausing in between shots, I'm not having that LCD lighting up and kind of going into my eye when I'm trying to shoot. I shoot typically with my white balance on auto white balance. Of course, I'm also shooting typically on RAW, so it has very little effect other than how the image will look on the LCD. For me, I use the color space being Adobe RGB. It gives me the maximum size color space and gives me more options in post-production. Again, because I shoot typically in RAW, I just have the picture style set to standard. I don't need it to be adjusting or tweaking the images. Here's one that has worked well for me. Auto rotate on CPU. What this is doing is that when I take an image that is in the portrait orientation, it does not rotate the image on the camera. So when it comes up on the LCD, the image is still going to use up the entire LCD. Of course, to play it back, I've got to rotate the camera, but it allows me to maximize the real estate that I have on the LCD. But on the other hand, when I import it and do my post-processing, then it will show up as being a rotated portrait image when I pull it into, say, Lightroom, Photoshop, something like that. With the info button, I've got all three options selected. I want to be able to display the camera settings, the electronic level, and then also display the shooting functions. For my exposure level increments, I choose a 1/3 stop increment so I can set my aperture and shutter speeds in 1/3 stops. But for me personally, I've always left the ISO setting increments at 1 stop. And then the exposure safety shift, I have it to shutter speed aperture. And that just basically says that if I'm trying to take an image at too wide of an aperture and it needs to adjust the aperture in order to get the image, a good, for instance, is if I'm outside, it's an extremely bright day, and let's just say I happen to have the camera set on ISO 400. I'm shooting at f 2.8 and can't take a proper image even at a 4,000th of a second, which is the maximum speed of the 6D. Then it will adjust my aperture up until it can get the proper exposure. It's also going to have a flashing of the shutter speed in the camera and on top of the LCD kind of as a warning. What happens is I end up with an image maybe not set exactly the way that I want, but I am ending up with a properly exposed image. And if I'm paying attention in the viewfinder or to the top of the camera, I'll see that blinking and realize, oh, wait a minute, I've set my camera to a higher ISO than what I really had intended. It's also a good reason why when you pick up the camera to go ahead and click through those screens on the info, and it's going to tell you quite a bit of information there, the ISO that the camera is currently set at and a number of things, so you can make sure that the camera is indeed set the way you want it to be for the situation that you're shooting in. Hi, I hope you enjoyed this lecture on my recommended settings for the Canon 6D. This is one of 32 lectures on my Udemy course on the Canon EOS 6D. And so for all of my YouTube viewers, I've got a special 70% off discount. So enter in the discount code YouTube30 and you'll get the course for $30 versus the $99 that it is normally retail on Udemy. So check it out. I hope you enjoy it.